This is Viterbi Voices.
Coming to you from the University of Southern California, Viterbi School of Engineering.
We're here to give you the inside scoop on research, classes, student life, and so much more.
All of these shared by students, faculty, alumni, and other members of the USC community.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Viterbi Voices. As usual, I am one of your co-hosts. My name is Paul Ledesma, Executive Director of Undergraduate Admission here at the Viterbi School of Engineering.
And I'm your other co-host. My name is Cameron. I'm a senior studying computer science and business administration at the Viterbi School.
So first off, apologies. Audio is a little bit different because I am, full disclosure, recording this in a hotel room, kind of like a closet in Portland, Oregon. And Cameron, it sounds like it's a really early morning for you right now. Are you feeling okay? Are you doing all right there?
Yeah, had a little bit of a late night last night trying to, turn out a quick assignment. Got a couple events this weekend. So, if you got the main thing about college, if you're going to do something on the weekend, you can do it, but you've got to do the work the night before. And that was last night for me. So we're doing okay now.
Yeah, got to hammer it out. Anyway, this is a fun time of year. It's an exciting time of year. There's lots of energy, as we talked about in a previous episode related to admission decisions. That was about prepping everybody. And now they're out, people are living with them. People are trying to decide where they're going to go to school. So right now in the admission world, we've got this highly selective class that has been admitted to USC, and they've been admitted to other great institutions that they're trying to compare. We've got a lot of great campus events. This weekend, we got a big one. We kick everything off with our Explore USC kind of weekend open house. That's on Sunday, April 2nd. And then we have 6 more Explore USC events throughout the month of April. So if you're an admitted student, make sure you come to those. And to clarify, what we've also noticed is that some admitted students are registering for the basic kind of campus tours and Viterbi info sessions. And sometimes they're doing it in addition to Explore USC, or sometimes not even at all, kind of instead of. And I just as a heads up, tours and info sessions are all for younger students who are thinking about applying. So it's a lot about that process. For admitted students, you want to come to Explore USC. Those are only for admitted students. And at Explore USC, you're going to get a much more detailed look into the Viterbi School of Engineering. You're going to meet a number of current students. You're going to meet faculty from your specific department. You're going to see facilities. You're going to go to lunch with students. You're going to hang out. Parents are always welcome to join as well. And we have specific parent events inside of that we take you to, the specific lunch with faculty. So there's so much stuff that's there. I want to make sure that I'm encouraging students to sign up. We got a lot of people signed up already, but I want to clarify how the events go. If you're an admitted student, everything that you want is all at viterbiadmission.usc.edu/admit. So make sure you check that out. And in line with all of that, this is essentially what this episode is all about. So why would someone choose USC? It's kind of the question that you're dealing with as an admitted student. You're looking at all the different places you're admitted to. Why USC? So Cameron, tell us a little bit about what's going on in this episode.
Yeah, so I think that when everyone's deciding between college, it's the fundamental question is, why should I go to X school over Y school? And you've got your options laid out in front of you. And there's so many factors to decide that, it's personal. It's a decision about where you're going to spend the next 4 years of your life studying a major, specifically engineering. It's going to be difficult. The decision isn't easy. And so what we tried to do, myself, Victoria, Mateo, and Celine, is we kind of walked through the process of talking about what we were like in high school, what we were involved in, what we were looking for in schools when we first applied. We even talked about what schools we actually got into and we're deciding between, and then transitioned into why we picked USC. And then also, has that decision held up? So essentially, did we make the decision, and then 2, 3, 4 years later, is it the same? So kind of giving that full timeline of, what we were like when we first decided to USC, probably in your guys' shoes, all the way to we're in college now. Is it worth it?
Awesome. This is really cool. I know you've talked to a lot of students about why USC, Cameron, and you get that question a lot. I want to kind of flip the question on you a little bit. What do you think is these admitted students? What do you think is their greatest kind of worry and concern right now? Like, what are they going through right now? What are the mindsets that are out there? Do you remember even your own, or also the ones that you've talked to a lot?
Yeah, I think that's something that I noticed that's in a lot of students' minds, and also like was a little bit of mine, is like having a lot of voices in your head telling you where you should roughly go to school. I like to the analogy of having too many cooks in the kitchen. And I
Yeah.
think that it's inherently difficult because college sometimes isn't just a own personal decision. It can also be a family decision about maybe parents wanting you to stay close to home or looking where maybe the financial aid and the financial resources are going to be the most plentiful for you. Also, maybe if your parents or guardians have a specific path or major they want you to go into. It's a very difficult conversation because there's so many people who have it at stake. It's not something I was thinking about just as far as, where should you go, where people think you should go, what people think you should do. And as we talk about in the conversation, that a lot of us kind of think that it's okay to take outside advice and listen to everyone. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it is somewhere where you have to spend the next 4 years. You have to live here roughly 24/7, sleep in the dorms, eat the dining hall food, talk to the students who go here, like live with the weather and the atmosphere and the programs that are here. And so because it's so personal for the next 4 years, what you have to do, that the outsized opinion should be your own.
That's great. I couldn't have said it any better. So let's get out of the way and hand it straight over back to you to talk to some of our current students about why USC. And then if you stick around towards the end, we'll have some other closing thoughts and other things you might want to consider.
All right, welcome to the main body, guys. I am so glad to have a really nice panel and group of people to kind of go ahead and talk about our decision and our process to why we got into USC and why we chose to go to USC. So I'll go ahead and just kind of have everyone on the call introduce themselves, name your major and hometown, and, we'll go ahead and get this thing started.
I can start. Hi, my name is Victoria. I'm a junior studying mechanical engineering.
And Victoria, where are you from?
I'm from Inglewood, California, really close to USC, around 20 minutes.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Celine Vasquez. I'm a junior studying biomedical engineering, and I'm from Montebello, California.
Hey everyone, my name is Mateo Paese. I'm from Menlo Park, California, and I'm a sophomore at USC studying biomedical engineering.
Awesome. And if you guys know me, I hope you guys know me by now, maybe not, but I'm Cameron. I'm a senior computer science business major, and I'm from Chicago. So we got a good variety and good people from over here. So if you're listening to this right now, that probably means congratulations, you got into USC, you found out about this, and you're probably doing like the most important and possibly most difficult decision, which is picking what school to go to. And that can be pretty difficult. I think we can kind of all imagine going back in time and, really trying to like figure out what school we want to go to. It's a big decision, the next 4 years of your life kind of at this place. So we kind of want to give you guys some insight as to, how we dealt through with everything and why we ultimately chose USC. Maybe let's give you some insight yourself as to what you can do and how you can go to USC. So I just want to ask you guys, talk to me about what it was like going to high school. Like what were you, looking at in high school? Did you, were you interested in engineering? Did you know you wanted to go to school for engineering? How did that work?
I went to, as I said, I'm from Inglewood, so I'm local. So when I was in high school, like my high school, we took a trip to USC during our junior year, and like every year, like a good amount of people from my high school would go to USC. So it's always on my radar, even though I wasn't sure necessarily if I wanted to go there at first. But in high school, I was involved in a lot of different things. I played softball all 4 years, or maybe 3.5 years. And I was like captain. We went to CIF. And then I was also a leader in a lot of different diversity clubs and organizations in my school, planned like a leadership conference, and also led a club and ran club meetings. And then I was also a part of an engineering club in my school. It's called like Invent Team. It was a competition ran by MIT where you solve a problem with engineering in your community. So we worked, I think, on like fire safety, because there are a lot of fires in the area around my school and in Los Angeles in general during my high school. And then we also worked on homelessness and like on providing shelter. So those were a little bit about my involvements. And like, as you can see, probably I was definitely a little bit interested in engineering and knew that it was something that I wanted to pursue. Definitely had like very little idea about what engineering I wanted to do. But to solve that, I really just looked at course plans for the schools and decided like, mechanical seems most interesting to me.
Yeah, so I'm from Montebello, which is also near Los Angeles. I went to high school in Alhambra, and I'm trying to think back to things that I was involved in high school. But the things that stick out to me, was vice president in student council. I was also a student ambassador for my high school, just for students to shadow us if they were in middle school. And I was also part of the robotics team. I was captain my senior year. And I think that's where I really got my first exposure to engineering. It was the first robotics program. And it was just a really great way to get my hands on in actually like prototyping and building things and really understanding that I had an interest in engineering. And then I also really liked my bio classes in high school. So it kind of just made sense to study biomedical engineering, and it ended up working out that way.
Yeah, so for me, I said I'm from Menlo Park, California. I went to Menlo Atherton High School. And in case you're wondering, Menlo Park is about 40 minutes south of San Francisco. So it's in the Bay Area. Some of the things I did in high school were I'm an Eagle Scout. So I was part of Boy Scouts since like the fourth grade. Something I really like to do. I'm someone that likes to do service as well as have a community. So, and also the outdoors. I love the outdoors. So being a Boy Scout was important to me. Additionally, I was in the band. I played the flute and then the alto saxophone. I was involved in my church. So I was part of the youth advisory board and youth group every week. And I also helped out with services. Like Celine, I was also kind of like a shadow host, as well as like a freshman transition leader and a transfer student host in my high school. So for newly enrolled freshmen, as well as people that wanted to tour or shadow our high school, I would be a leader for that and bring them along with my day. And then I also tutored math and Spanish and worked in high school as well. I always did love math and science. It was just something I was better at than humanities, such as like English and social studies. And I just loved it because I guess I'm a person that loves to solve problems. Like I love trying to find a solution. And so I wanted to kind of like dedicate my studies towards finding solutions to the world's bigger problems, but I wasn't really sure what type of engineering I wanted to do. So I was kind of applying to schools as undeclared engineering major.
And for me, I could say like in high school, I definitely was the kid. I knew I wanted to do engineering. So some of you may relate to it, some of you may not. But like I did robotics since like my freshman year of high school. And like that was like one of my major involvements, like doing the robotics competition, like working with the team, doing like mechanical design for it and like CAD software. So I was definitely the bit of the nerd and I enjoyed like my math and physics classes. But I also did like a fair amount of community service work. I was a part of a male mentoring organization at my high school, and we like provide like different peer-based male mentoring for students. We took college tours and whatnot, like all provided at the school. And so for context, in the South Side of Chicago, I went to just like a neighborhood public high school. So nothing fancy in this, or we didn't have an engineering class or even a APCS or anything. So, it certainly wasn't, anything fancy like that. I was just trying to figure it out. So I certainly knew that I wanted to do engineering. I like math, and I heard that like, oh, if you like math and science, but you don't want to like just study it. I wasn't necessarily trying to just, study physics. I wanted to like build something because, I was a stereotypical kid. They're like, oh, I took apart things in my mom's room, and they're like, why are you taking apart your watch? And it's like, because it's cool. So I certainly was that type of kid. But I also tried to have a fair amount of like community service and balance. So, and being from a big city too, that kind of shaped my view about how I wanted things. And so kind of with that, I want to know from you guys, like when you were applying to college, what was going through your head? Did you have like a list of things? How'd you go about trying to even pick the college you applied to, let alone thinking about where you want to go to? Just what was that process of figuring out where to apply and what you were looking for?
Mm-hmm. When I was deciding to apply, I definitely had like a pretty long list of things that I wanted. And even like looking back then, I'm like, USC is probably like the only school that really checked off all the things that I wanted. But one thing, I guess this is a little bit of a a sillier thing maybe, but I really wanted to go to a school with good sports, or at least like a good school spirit culture. Definitely my high school. I went to a small high school, but we were still like very, very proud and we had a lot of school spirit. So definitely something that I wanted to continue on. And I felt like that's just something that would help me enjoy my college experience. I also was really looking for warm weather. I don't know. I'm from Los Angeles and I was like, I'm not trying to be like in the snow. That's just not my vibes. And it wouldn't be great for me. And then another thing I was looking for, academics wise, obviously like a strong program, but I was looking at places where that really had a lot of academic options because I knew like even though I was in engineering, that I still wanted to take like other courses and really get to explore everything that college has to offer. So I was really looking at schools that had like a lot of different interesting programs, and that can include like academic courses, but also just extracurriculars in general. I looked a lot at like the clubs and other resources that schools offered to do it. And then lastly, I think one thing that was important for me that I couldn't just, like look up online was a strong community. Like going into engineering, I knew, especially as like a Black woman, that there probably weren't going to be a lot of Black people in school, but I wanted to make sure that I would still have like that support in that community. So that was something that was really important to me, especially as I was looking at the schools I was actually admitted to and trying to decide from there.
Yeah, I would definitely say that I was looking for a place that would be somewhat close to home. That was just something that was important for me, just being close to my family. So I live about 20 minutes away from USC, so it ended up working out. I was also looking at weather. I think in my head, I had this idea that I wanted to go to the East Coast initially, but I definitely need the sun. And especially this past month has definitely reaffirmed that idea. Like I need the sun. Like I can't do rainy season like all the time. So definitely weather as well. Also location, like USC is in a really great location, like Los Angeles. Like there's a lot of jobs around here for after graduation. It's definitely a place that has a lot of opportunities. And ultimately, the two like most important factors were money, whichever institution would give me the most money to come to college, and also just having a work-life balance was really important for me. Like coming into college, I really wanted a place that would see me outside of engineering, where I'd be able to enjoy things that I like to do in my free time. And USC has so many of those clubs and opportunities where you can do things just for fun. So I really wanted to find that balance in my engineering life.
Oh my goodness, all these Californians and complain about the weather. Like, oh, the weather, it's so cold. I can't do it with the snow. Boo. How do you think I feel? How do you think I feel? It's cold in Chicago. It snows. It rains. It hails by the lake.
I feel bad for you. I was like, I'm not gonna feel there.
People go to college in the snow. I went to high school in the snow, taking the bus and the train, and it was very cold. So I considered weather. Okay. See, for anyone who's out of state, because I'm the only representative on the call who's from out of state and doesn't have any weather, listen to me. I somewhat considered the weather from it. Mind you, like the majority of the schools in America are going to have snow. So sorry, California, not the center of the world. The rest of us do exist, even though you can't do the geography, but we exist. But whether it's an option, but it wasn't really my main concern. I was looking for I also wanted school spirit. That's like a very random thing. But my school, even like we had sports and everything, people just did not care. They were like not proud to like wear the school stuff. I'm like, what's wrong with you guys? Like, I don't want it to be like a movie where everyone's like cheering and stands. So like D1 sports. I guess later on I realized that was
cool. Come on.
So like that's kind of what I was looking for. But I think like I also enjoyed like obviously a strong program, but I also really wanted to like, see what else you could do outside the classroom. I was looking for like, okay, like what clubs and orgs on campus. I may be like very specific. And I think the year I applied to USC, ironically, like that was a question like, oh, what do you want to get involved with outside the classroom? I'm guessing it changes from time to time. But like I was like, okay, like let me see what clubs do you guys have? Do you guys have like, do you guys build rockets, like build cars? And nudge, they do that at USC. Like, I don't know, do you guys like, do cool things and like 3D print things? So like, I thought that was really cool. Beyond that, I wanted a school that was big. I don't know why. I went on a college tour when I was a kid and I saw a big school and I was like, I like big schools. Like, I don't know why. It's just kind of cool. It's like just, a really bustling environment where there's like so many things going on. You feel like you can get lost in the, lost in the sauce, but then find your way out of it. So I feel like that was pretty cool. And I guess I kind of wanted a school in the city since like I'm from the city and like nothing's wrong with the suburbs. I just don't see myself living there. It feels very slow and like slow paced and, just like barely going along. And that's not who I am. Like need a little faster pace. So I guess I was looking for that. But I think I focused a lot less on like specifically the academic requirements and just like what else for me. Because I knew that like at a certain point in time, all of these quote unquote top schools are going to, everything will be fine. Their outcomes are going to be good. But I was like, what else is there? You've got to live here for 4 years. So am I going to have fun? Am I going to enjoy myself? Am I going to do things? So I was looking at all of those intangibles in the background.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool, actually. Cameron, you're not going to like me. Like I said, I'm also in state. So I will have to say the weather was a really big thing for me. I didn't realize it at first, though. I applied to 26 schools scattered across the United States, which in hindsight, like that's a lot. But if you did that like me, you know why. It's because you really like were not sure where you wanted to go. Especially like for me, affected by COVID year, just because like I feel like a good time to tour schools is sometimes like before your senior year, just so you get a sense of where you want to apply to. And I had that a little bit robbed from me. So I really got to tour schools when the school started opening up a little bit after I was admitted. But I wanted to keep my options open. And so what I was looking for was just a school with a good engineering program. I realized I wanted to do engineering. I wasn't really sure what type though. So I was looking for schools that had like at least a couple engineering majors to choose from, ranging from like something bio-related to something like mechanical and computer science. Like I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I wanted to have those options, right? And the ability to switch easily in between because I wasn't sure. I really thought like I'd be switching my major a lot more than I ended up doing. But including that, like I said, weather was huge for me just because I realized like I don't want to buy a whole new wardrobe just to go to college. I don't want to have spring and winter clothes. I think it was just convenience. So like Celine said too, being closer to home, it's not that far. It's only like a 1 hour plane ride if I had to do it like overnight. And so it was just important to me to be close to my family because my brother is also on the West Coast with my family. But also in high school, I was one of the only Latinos in my classes, specifically the advanced ones. It just wasn't very supportive environment in terms of wanting to see people underrepresented succeed. And so it was important for me to go to a school that not only had diversity, but also celebrated it. So I was looking for orgs and stuff that I wanted to join. And well, I first looked at Stanford because I live pretty close to Stanford and I thought it'd be the right school for me just because I lived around it my whole life. And so I saw that they had a Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers there. And I was like, wow, this is like literally exactly what I wanted this whole time. Like if they had this in high school, I would be going there every single day. But I didn't end up going to Stanford, obviously. I'm here at USC and USC has one too. And it worked out for me. So I'm very happy.
So I'm going to tell you, actually kind of name dropped the school, which was interesting to my next question. So with that kind of, I am interested to know, you guys don't have to reveal if you want to, but what's other schools were you potentially looking at? And what's other schools did you get into that you were considering going to? You don't have to answer it, but I feel like we get this question a lot. And like, it's something I'm very open about. Like, yeah, like I got into these schools. But if you're comfortable with, you can talk about, what the schools you got into and apply to just so people can get a frame of mind. Because there may be someone who out there who is deciding between those two schools. And mind you, this isn't a advertisement like, okay, she was choosing between USC and, so-and-so other school, and they chose USC. So I'm going to choose USC, come here. It's great. But, don't take our word for it, experience it yourself. But with that being said, if you guys want to say what schools you got into and we're considering, you can go ahead if you want to.
Okay, let me see. I only applied to 7 schools. So like here you applied to 26. I felt like I was I was pushing it with the application.
See, I think that's crazy too. Like, I only applied to 9. You're like, people like applying like 27. I'm like, were you 100% going to go to all 27 of those schools? Like, each one you could convince yourself you were going to go
I
to
didn't
them?
even want to go to all 7 schools I applied to. I was like, I don't know, but
Damn.
that's crazy. Shout out to you for putting in that work.
Did you just like go down Common App and just like click a bunch of schools and click submit?
Yeah,
Be
hello
honest.
waivers. And additionally, like a lot of the essays were the same. So I'm like, like it'd be cool to live in Boston. Let me put a school in Boston on my list. Yeah.
Yes, Boston, where it's cold and they get the nor'easter every year, 100%.
Listen, I wasn't sure. I just wanted to keep my options open. But yeah.
No, that makes sense. When I was deciding between my schools, I'd say the top 3 or top 4 that I was really considering were USC, Duke, Vanderbilt, and UC Berkeley. And the reason that USC really stood out to me is one, I got like a full merit scholarship to USC. So I feel like that was one of the big deciders for me, because to be honest, like I tell a story all the time, but I was like, I'm not going to USC. Like I'm at least gonna go like, I don't know, somewhere that's at least like a couple of hours away, or at least on the other coast. I was like, I gotta leave, gotta do my own thing. But I feel like when I came to USC for my interview for Explore, and then just got to talk to more students, I realized that this is really an opportunity that I should take advantage of. And I realized like a lot of the things that I thought were cool at other schools that I was choosing between, really I could get the same experience and even more at USC. And I think once I really realized that, it was like a really easy choice for me to choose USC. So definitely, like it was a hard decision. Like I'll be honest, like when I submitted my deposit, I was like genuinely sad. Like I was excited, but I was like crying out of sadness because I definitely, like, USC was not my first choice out of all those, but it really was like the place for me. And I'm sure I'll get more into it later on in this interview. But really, I have no regrets at all for choosing USC, even though really it's not somewhere that I saw myself like before like January of 2020. So
Yeah, I would say for me, top 4 schools. I applied to schools like all across, but the top ones that I was deciding between were USC, UCLA, Carnegie Mellon, and Northeastern. So it was like 2 different like sides of like the US. But I think ultimately I had gotten to visit 3 out of the 4 schools, and it was just really the vibe ultimately that I had to go with, just like where I saw that students seemed the happiest and also where I could see myself fitting in. And I really felt that USC was that place for me, and a place that I saw myself growing as a person and as a leader. Also, the financial aid was definitely a part. USC ended up being my cheapest option out of all of those schools. So it was definitely one of the main considering factors coming here. And I also, like, when I applied, like just getting like the Dean's Research Award, just like I was able to see how much USC was investing in its students and how they wanted us to like do things like research as freshmen. And I thought that was really cool, just being able to see that when I was first starting out at USC. And there's also, like Mateo was mentioning earlier, there's a lot of opportunities and resources for students of color studying engineering. Like there was a Viterbi Summer Institute program that I did before starting my first year at USC, just getting a taste of like college life, even though it was virtually. We took like classes before starting. We did like online research too. So just having that support was really important for me when starting out in college.
I already touched on it before. I live pretty close to Stanford University, and I did think it was going to be one of my top options. Looking in hindsight, like I'm glad that I didn't even have the option to go there, just because like living so close to home, I don't feel like I would have been able to grow, just because I love my parents so much that I could live with them as long as I wanted to. and I wouldn't like, you know what I mean? Like, if I could, I'd live with them forever. So, however, moving to LA was just something really cool for me, just because I did want to move for college. So if it was going to be anywhere, it was going to be LA or at least Southern California, just because I hated everything else weather related. So.
Oh my goodness. Was there any other SoCal schools that you were looking at?
That was pretty tense. I'm sorry. But yeah, so my list was cut down to Cal Poly, UCSB, and UCSD. So a couple state schools. And I think the main kind of decision was that USC kind of got me the most excited. You know, I looked at all my options, like financially and like school related. They all had pretty good engineering majors and programs. They all have student organizations, but really set it apart for me was that USC had small class sizes. I think that was like super important to me. Individualized help and resources was just like also very important to me, just because I like come from a high school that has like 30 students per classroom. I couldn't imagine like large class sizes moving forward. I still have those, but they're like a lot more manageable than what I think it would be at, say, Cal Poly or UCSD. And additionally, like, I think I've touched on it before, but the resources for the Center for Engineering Diversity at USC, it was just nice that USC had reserved like spaces on campus for us to have spaces to study and orgs to have like meetings and stuff like that. I just saw like the appreciation that they had for us and they valued us. And so that's just the reason why I wanted to go here as well.
Yeah, so for me, I coming from out of state, I certainly wasn't looking at any other well, I was, but like most of my schools were like kind of scattered all over the place. Although, like, mind you, like the UCs, like University of California, having a separate application was like really horrible. Like, get it together, guys. Like, come on now. Like, especially making me pay for an application, ridiculous. But for me, I applied to 9 schools and I got into 6, and I was really only deciding between USC and Columbia University in New York. And I guess I was deciding between UCLA, but like that wasn't really on the list.
Oh, what is
yeah,
UCLA?
Say what?
I've never heard of that before.
It's that other school in Los Angeles. Like, it's actually rather annoying though, because like if some people don't know what USC is, you tell them, hey, I go to a really good school in Los Angeles, and they'll be like, oh, like someone called it USCLA. Someone called it that before. And I'm like USCLA. I'm like, that's not a school. Like, yeah, USCLA. I'm like, you mean either USC or UCLA? Got to pick one. So no, but yeah, but mainly like I was deciding between Los Angeles or USC in Los Angeles or Columbia in New York. Those were kind of the main schools. Mind you, they're like on completely opposite sides of the coast or opposite sides of the country, different coasts, and which makes sense. They're both in big cities, which kind of I liked. But I was just kind of biting my options because both have, exceptional financial aid, like, trying to meet 100% of the need. They're in big schools. They've got like, ridiculous sized endowments. Like I got research awards, both of them. I got like a Viterbi Fellows Award from USC, and I got some merit award from there. Look, I'm not going to lie, Columbia, like they were ridiculous. They even like, I don't know what type of trickery they did, but like they got an astronaut, like mind you, like someone who's actually an astronaut works at USC and he teaches here. Some old person who's astronaut at Columbia like signed a book and sent it to me. I'm like, no offense, but like we have like a real actual astronaut who like met and shook his hand. You guys just sent me this book. It's not the same. It's not the same. But I got a chance to visit both campuses. I visited USC like during my junior year after AP exams, and I did a fly-in program with the Columbia. So I was very acquainted with both schools, mind you, which kind of was it. But I feel like for me, it was kind of really not much of a contest, especially for like, I kind of knew I always wanted to move to California. And I feel like even though now I'm actually moving to New York after I graduate. So some people say, oh, you should have done that. And I'm like, not quite, I happen to be moving there. But like when your dream is, oh, I want to move to California. Could you imagine like turning down your dream? Like, that's kind of ridiculous. If your dream is to move to California and someone says, hey, here's a prime spot in California with basically everything you want, move to California, which is really cool. And so that was kind of like some of the things that was going through my head, at least. My next question was going to be about, what overall made, you choose USC, but you guys answered that a little bit. But I didn't answer it. So I'm going to answer for myself. If you have anything else you want to add, you can hop in after me. But my answer as to why I chose USC over technically two schools, really just one. I think like it boiled down to probably like the people. I think that's like a very indicative thing. And I'll tell a little story, which I feel like some people have probably heard. Victoria may have heard this frequently because she's known me for a little bit. But back, I don't want to say back in my day, I feel old. I'm not old. I'm born in 2001. That's like old. Don't tell your parents. They'd be like, he's young. Anyway, back when I was applying and interviewing for scholarship for USC, which was really a determining factor because I come from I'm a first generation college student and I'm, just average working class, family. So affording school was definitely like a key concern. So I needed money. I was interviewing for a full tuition scholarship, and they, it was a USC like interviews at the time were in person. And so I flew out here and I was like, waiting to my interview, and they gave us a voucher to go into the McCarthy Arnold's dining hall, which was pretty nice at the time. I think I got a USC waffle, which is really cool today. And so I'm sitting there in my blue 3-piece suit at like 7:50 in the morning on a Friday, right? Which if you're a college student, like that's pretty ridiculous. Like, right? Like who's doing that? Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So no,
I was in that dining hall eating.
That's what I'm saying. Like, or if you have a Friday 8 a.m., one, you hate yourself, or two, like maybe that's the class you have to take. I'm not going to mind you, but like, why are you wearing a suit? Right? Why are you wearing a suit? So anyway, I mean, I'm like very nervous. So this is a lot of money. This is like, like almost $250,000 on the line right here, like, getting this money. So I was like nervous as I don't know what. I'm like sweating. It's like hot. I'm like, oh my goodness, my suit's constricting. And all of a sudden in the corner of my eye, I see these like 3 kids come up and like they're kind of walking towards me. And I'm like, oh no, like what's going on? Like I'm like 17. I'm like, what are these older looking guys? What are they going to do? And they kind of pull up to me and start sitting down. I'm like, what's going to happen? Like, is this like a horror movie? And they're like, they say like, oh, are you here interviewing for a scholarship? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, how could you tell? And they're like, dude, you look like you're in high school and you're wearing a suit at 8 a.m. on a Friday. Like you have to interview for a scholarship. And like, so they called me out completely. Ironically, they were all engineering students, which is very funny. Cause like, what are you doing up at Friday? You probably have Friday class because engineers do have
dynamics at 8 a.m. Mech Ops at 8 a.m. What are you talking about?
Oh my God. Wait, Mech Ops used to be Fridays at 8 a.m., right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So mind you, so sad. Sorry about that. You not a Mexicus, you are a mechanical engineer or aerospace and take Mech Ops if you're up on Friday morning. So sorry about that. Anyway, to get to the rest of the story, pretty much like they said, like these guys didn't know me from Adam, and they sat down and they just asked me, "Are you here for scholarship?" And I said, "Yeah." And like, you kind of, how are you feeling? I was like, I'm a little nervous, it's a lot. And literally they spent like 10, 15 minutes just like talking to me, like asking me like about myself and just kind of hyping me up. Just like, hey, like you're going to do good. Like you already got in, like, you're going to be pretty good. Like, you should come here and like, you're going to ace the interview. Like you seem like you do really cool stuff. Like just like taking the time out of the day. It's like mine just like February. So like midterms were probably going on. It's like February, like 21st. So midterms were probably already happening. They may have had a Mech Ops exam that day, but they took the time out their day to like help this little old like high school student who wants to get into USC and go here, like calm down and not be nervous for an interview. And I tell that as like a microcosm for what USC has kind of felt in the community that was really important. Like there's a sense of like Trojan family, which seems a little corny to me. It's like, Trojan family, woo, whatever. But it kind of is a real thing. It's legitimate. And like the people here, they're like actually inviting. There's actually a sense of community here. People are willing to help one another. They're collaborative in the classes and with the people on campus. And like, they're actually like happy. So, and I didn't quite see that anywhere else, which is like very important. Like I went to schools and I'm like, I know midterms is hard. We're not always happy, but like, can you at least put a smile on your face and pretend like you're, it's the best 4 years of life, as they say. And it was the truth. And so I really did enjoy. I thought that was really good. My second, which is also close, was USC was the only school who really focused and advertised that we will hopefully try to get you out of here in 4 years. I never heard another school that's ever told that to me before. USC was like, if you pass your classes and do what we tell you to do, like obviously you can't like take random classes, you'll get out of here in 4 years. And so that was something that actually made, me was like, wow, they actually care about me graduating in 4 years, because financially for me it was like my other scholarships ran after 4 years. I need to get out. And that was something that I wanted to, that would kind of really solidify my deal going there. I was like, yeah, this has got to be the spot. And it worked out well. Sorry, that was long, but that was my story. And I really enjoy that. That's like my close to heart USC story.
Yeah, no, it's super valid. I think I just want to add like a little piece that's like, I remember getting like emails and little pieces of spam mail from USC, and it didn't really feel like spam mail, because every single time I'd see like the red and gold colors, I'd be like, "Ooh, cool, a letter from USC," I think like it was almost fate for me when I was deciding, just because I had always like somewhat known about USC. My friend had like a USC hoodie in sophomore year, and we'd study biology together. And so just the fact that I got into USC, like she's like, oh my God, remember that one time we were studying? Like it just felt like fate. So if for some reason you feel like the puzzle pieces are joining together and like aligning, maybe look into it. Because something that also very much helped me was being able to visit USC. So the day admissions decisions were released, which was actually 2 years ago today for me, exactly.
Oh, wow.
The day we're filming.
Wow.
It was still in the pandemic, and it was just like fun, just because me and my parents were on a little road trip going to visit all the California schools. And when I got my admissions decision for USC, I was in the car ride on the way to visit USC. And so I wasn't sure if I wanted to open the letter before I got in the car or after I got to campus. And I opened it in the car and I was like, yay, I got in. I think visiting the campus really did make the difference for me, just because I don't know, I was just mesmerized because I visited at around 5 p.m. And by the time I was done visiting the campus, it was like sunset. You could see the gold hitting the sun, or the sun hitting the gold on the, not the gold, but the gold colors on the buildings. I was like, wow, like this school's like really pretty. I love how like somewhat compact it is, but still has a lot to do on the campus as well as the city itself. I just remember in the car driving to USC and seeing like all these parks, and I think I passed by a zoo and the Bank of California Stadium, and I was like, wow, there's like a lot to do around here. And of course, like every single artist you see like online that goes on tour, they're of course going to stop in Los Angeles. Like I feel like I wanted to go to a school that had all these opportunities to do outside of school. Oh, and the airport too. LAX airport's not too far away. So just having all those things really did help me make that decision, because not really many other schools had that.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So given that, everyone picked USC, we're here now. The most important question now is like, was it the right choice? So everyone's here, like we have sophomore, junior, and senior, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like, was it the right choice? And if so, how have you been able to figure that out?
Yes, I would say for me, absolutely. I said it earlier, I'll say it again, but it was absolutely the right choice for me. And I definitely think I knew that when I was deciding. Even though I was like, oh, I'm so upset, I'm kind of upset that I'm not going to this other school. I knew that at the end of the day, USC was where I should have been and I need to go. I would say one of the main reasons that I chose USC, I think I had a similar story to you, Cam, is that I came and visited USC for one of our Discover Viterbi Expo events. I got to talk to, basically they had a student org fair, and I got to talk to the people at the National Society of Black Engineers booth. And I was like really nervous, just like a little high schooler with my dad. And they like invited me, they're like, come over here and talk to us for like a good 30 minutes, like long after the student org fair had ended. And I think what really surprised me and made me really like fall in love with USC then and there was how like kind, passionate, and welcoming they were. That was really an experience that I had at no other school. And I knew that I would have a community here at USC that supported me and uplifted me. And like throughout my years, I can definitely say that that's true. My role now in the National Society of Black Engineers, I'm on the National Executive Board. And that's something that started for me really because an upperclassman in the National Society of Black Engineers, or NSBE, reached out to me about leading on the regional level and leading on a chapter level. And that's something that I literally never would have saw myself doing, but it really like jump started like a whole years long of leadership for me and leadership roles. And I feel like that was an experience that I would have gotten nowhere else but USC. So definitely I'm very thankful that I chose USC because I think it's really helps me grow as a person.
Yeah, I definitely agree that USC was the right choice. I really can't imagine myself at any other school. Um, it's like when you first get to college, it's definitely a transition, like getting adjusted from high school and like getting used to college things, like balancing your classes and everything. But at the end of the day, like that first, like my first in-person year at USC was my sophomore year. And I just like realized how much I love the school and just the people, like everyone has been saying, really make the school. And like I feel really supported in all of my classes. And I definitely think that's something that surprised me about college is that I expected there to be some sort of community. And like I had heard about the Trojan family, but I really did not expect it to be as strong as it is here at USC. And I think that's what has made my experience that much better. Just like having all of these people in my classes and like it's all your friends. It just feels like a giant friend group going to classes, especially in engineering, because the majors are pretty small. And yeah, just like having people really care about you and like your life after college too has been really amazing and just making memories with people. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's been quite a bit since I made the decision. It's been 4 years or almost 4 years since I made the decision to come to USC. And I can safely say it has definitely been the main one. I think that for me, like definitely what solidified that was when I wanted to switch my major. I started in mechanical engineering and I got switched to computer science after some soul searching, some class taking, and some realizing, oh, computer science isn't that bad. It's actually just maybe need to take a class on it. And I guess what I realized through that is that, that flexibility was super important to me, that I kind of thought about it first, but I was like, oh, it's nice to have a, get out of jail free card if I don't want to do mechanical engineering, but I know I'm going to do it. Newsflash, things change in college. But also just in general, like the community I found, the people I've met, the friends I've made along USC just kind of really solidified it. Like someone told me that like, oh, it's very easy to make a big school feel small, but it's almost impossible to make a small school feel big because there's not as many people. And so I really was able to find that community through that. And I think that like it's very easy to kind of like second guess yourself. I feel like this, like I tell, like I work with, I'm a freshman academy student, which is like, or TA, which is like one of the classes you take when you're a incoming fall freshman. I tell them all the time, like, look, what's going to happen once you get to college, it's going to be going good for the first couple of weeks, yada, yada, yada. And then something's bad's going to happen. Like maybe it's like a dispute with a friend or like you got a bad grade on an exam or like, so you're just feeling really down. The first thing you're going to do is be like, dang, I should have went to the other school. I made the wrong decision. You're going to be like very sad. But that's really not the best way to think about it. Like, of course, you're going to second guess. You're making a decision. And as soon as one thing goes wrong, you're going to always think you made the wrong choice. But just like sit in it for a second. Like you obviously made the right choice because like you didn't make this choice blindly. You poured hours and hours and like, there's so much mind share and like stress about it. You made the choice and it was right. Just remember why it is. Remember, like nothing's going to be perfect. Nothing's going to be easy. But, the choice was right for a variety of reasons. Remember those reasons. Maybe you made it for the community and the people you saw, right? Lean on those people when it was difficult. Or, oh, you made it because you thought the academic programs were good and the resources were good. Well, if you're struggling in class, there's support and academics and peers to help you. So for me, I just found that even in those like tough times, like, oh, I'm, not necessarily my peak, I was still able to get out of that and, continue to, progress and move and feel good about myself because of the things USC had, the academic support and the peers and the people. And that kind of realized over 4 years that definitely made the choice right for me.
I guess for me, I agree with a lot of things you guys have said. To cater it to myself a bit, I really am happy that I was able to find a community that I enjoyed in the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, aka SHIP. Just having that community with like-minded individuals with similar shared experiences was just really something important to me. And I'm glad I've been able to find and integrate myself into. I've had opportunities to work in outreach for the LA area, which I really enjoyed just because I'm not from here. And I feel like I'm taking a lot from the city, but wasn't really giving much back. And so just having some opportunities to give back was just really important to me, to a city that I've never really experienced before, but always heard of my entire life. And I really did feel the Trojan family as well, as Celine was saying. I love to wear my USC merch in the airport just because like somebody's going to recognize that, you're either flying into LAX or you're leaving LAX. So chances are you probably are on a flight with at least one person that has or knows somebody that went to USC. And so my last flight, I did meet someone who graduated from the Marshall School of Business in like 1979, which is like crazy. I'm like, wow, it's like such a coincidence. He's like, yeah, I love to just give back to the Trojan family. I've hired interns before and, I was once a first generation college student. Now that I've been able to give back, it just means a lot to me. So I'm excited for the Trojan family to work for me someday in terms of like my professional and personal goals. And yeah.
That's definitely good to hear. And I think like just kind of understanding the perspective that basically everyone has gone through over the time is pretty good. Now, looking back at it, like obviously we're at school, we know we made the right decision, but we didn't predict quite everything. Obviously, it's kind of impossible. So was there anything that surprised you once you like got to school and you realized like, oh, I thought it was going to be like this and actually was something else? If not, perfectly fine. But I was curious, did things change from your perception of what you thought USC was going to be like, or you thought college was going to be like, and you actually got here and it was very different?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is I thought college was going to be easy. Just because in high school, they tell you like you're taking these AP classes because they're rigorous and it's going to help you prepare for college. And in reality, at least for me, I felt that I wasn't entirely prepared for how difficult college would be. I'm not going to lie, engineering is hard. And I wasn't fully prepared for that because I feel like the study skills you develop in high school are not as strong as the ones you'll end up developing in college. And I just didn't know how to work efficiently. So that first semester was definitely a learning curve for me. But again, like as Cameron was saying, you have to lean into those resources. So I really learned how to advocate for myself and get in touch with my professors and really search for resources and opportunities that would help me get through those academically rigorous classes. And I was able to develop study skills and things that would help me. And now it's fine. Like I was telling people earlier, like this semester has been pretty chill for me, just getting used to my classes now and being in those upper division classes that I used to think would have been super hard now are just easier for me just because it's not necessarily that the content gets easier or that the classes get easier. It's just that you really learn how to navigate college. So I think I wasn't expecting that big of a hurdle to get over, but what I really appreciate about USC is that you have those people and you have those resources to get you through that.
Mm-hmm. I would definitely +1 on that, college being hard. I think another thing that's a lot different from college, especially for engineering than high school, is that your classes will build on each other. So it's important to really understand what you learned in that class. Because I feel in high school, I could be okay, whatever. I don't really need to remember this because we're never going to learn it again. But that is not the case. I have found that is not the case in college. You really do need to make sure that you at least have a solid foundation for all of the subjects. And it ends up being really helpful for your future, for your upper divisions. And then another thing I'll add is I was really surprised by how collaborative college was. I think it was one thing, of course, it's one thing to hear from admissions counselors, be yeah, it's not very competitive. We encourage a collaborative environment. But I was still I don't know, it's engineering school, you never know. But really, just the support and the community that I've made with my peers and my classes has definitely been one of the things that's helped me the most through my college career. And I'm really grateful, to go to a school like USC, where a lot of my classes aren't graded on a set curve, where it's only this amount of people get A's, only this amount of people get B's. That really helped foster the collaborative environment. And it's definitely been something that's been super helpful for my college experience.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to Victoria on the collaborative environment aspect, just because Celine said college would be easy coming in. I'm I thought engineering especially would be pretty hard. I mean, it's in different contexts, but still, I thought that engineering was going to be pretty tough, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to handle it. So I also just wasn't sure what I wanted to do yet. So I mentioned before I applied for undeclared engineering. Should have mentioned this before, but I ended up picking biomedical engineering just because I had the option to take engineering classes my first semester. And I decided to try one in biomedical engineering just because I was inspired by the quick work of scientists in the pandemic. developing vaccines and new treatments for people when they needed it most. And I wanted to contribute to that field. So I was just surprised about like how interesting the classes would be as well, or how interesting the classes are. I'm not sure how it is at other schools, but at least at mine, like I never thought I was going to be able to code like medical imaging, like on my computer. I was essentially given like values for like different grayscales on pictures. And so being able to program like medical images and like upgrade the resolution just to like see different scans of the brain differently. That's just one example of like one of the cool things I've done. And so like Celine said, the difficulty in classes, it does not get easier. It almost gets like harder, right? So whenever you listen to people saying like, oh, it's like super hard, like I'm struggling like immensely, like there's gonna be hard nights. Like last night I stayed up until 4 a.m. But it's like that for everyone, I promise. Like some people go party until 4 a.m. It's the same thing. So whenever you hear that, definitely don't get discouraged. No one really asked for advice, but I feel like it's relevant just because it's something that surprised me. It's just like the environment is so collaborative that everyone's going through different things. Everyone has their own problems. Everyone has their own responsibilities, but really we're all students. We're all a large group and we're in this together.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I'm not really sure how like the difficulty of college I was expecting for it. Like I knew it was going to be hard. Like everyone said, like engineering school is difficult. But I guess like I was just mainly surprised like how fluid like interests and whatnot can change just because like more so skewed because I changed my major and I was like, oh wow, like there's so much like interdisciplinary work going on and like interdisciplinary like research and like you need like I don't know, like electrical engineers on like the race car team. It's like you need to be here. Like, don't you build circuits? And it's like, well, there's other stuff in the car. Or like an aerospace engineer, like this thing doesn't fly. And it's like, well, you don't want it to fly. And we need to be here to make sure it doesn't fly. So I thought that was actually something really interesting just about, college engineering in general that I wasn't quite expecting. And so that kind of put in perspective, like, oh, wow, like interests are fluid, interests change and they change over time. And that's actually a good thing. And that if you want to be an engineer, what you major in, like, now and when that's useful, it's important to get you out of college, but that's not the thing you have to do for the rest of your life. I'm not saying, oh, I want to be a computer scientist and build software for the next 40 years until I retire. You got a lot of leeway in that. So I thought that was something very interesting that I didn't expect. And USC definitely promotes like switching majors and, if you want to, or doing interdisciplinary things if you want to. So I thought that was pretty cool. And so for our last bit, as everyone's looking forward to this, we've given our context for deciding schools. Well, I want to know, do you guys have any advice? I know plenty of listeners that are looking to this podcast to try to get a nugget of gold of like why they maybe should choose USC. But what advice do you have to people who want to, figure out what college they're going to?
I would say the main piece of advice I could give is just to really listen to yourself. Like there's going to be a lot of people telling you what to do. You're going to have your parents, you're going to have your college, your high school counselor, you're going to have different people telling you like what they think is best for you. But at the end of the day, you really know where you're going to be happiest. And it's going to be your college experience. It's not going to be anybody else's. So you really have to choose the place where you think you're going to be the happiest. And I think that's what really helped me make my decision to come to USC, because I knew that this was the place where I would be happy and where I would grow as a person. And so I think that's probably the main piece of advice I would give.
Yeah, I definitely think that's good advice, Celine. Like when you're choosing a college, this is really your chance to be introspective and really think about what you want out of this experience. And definitely like this month, the month of what month is it? April, was a tough time for me as a college student, because it's really had been like one of the first times where I was like, okay, like I really got to consider what I want and make this decision, because I feel like I'm usually a little bit of an indecisive person. And then another piece of advice I would give, I guess, is kind of after your decision, but really once you make that choice on where to go, just to commit to. I think it's easy, kind of like Cameron said earlier, to second guess or to be like, oh, I don't know if I made the right decision even before you get there. But really, like once you made the decision, this is your opportunity to really buy in and commit to the resources and be excited and leverage the opportunities that you have. So I know like it's super easy to get in your head, but I would really encourage people to, I don't know, like I guess think about the opportunities that they have rather than things that they're missing.
Yeah, I think like you guys probably have the best amalgamation of like what it means or like, to overall like decide where you want to go to school. But I definitely echo the sentiments of just, making a decision for yourself. I know I certainly have people in my ear who are trying to tell me what to do and kind of at least like provide their own spin. I mean, everyone has their own 2 cents. And of course, like sometimes the decision is a family decision, especially if there's like money involved and when there be things considered there. Like I know for me that definitely was a major consideration. But the most important thing to understand is that, you're the person who has to go to school for the next 4 years. It's not, someone else. It's not the high school counselor. It's not the family friend who thinks that, oh, I've heard great things about X school and you should go here. I'm not, don't want to, project in anyone else's life. It's just that, you have to live here. You're the one who's going to be living in the dorms and eating the dining hall food. You're the one who's going to be hopefully laying on the lawn and swinging on the hammock in the sun. And, you're the one who's going to be up late at night worrying about the problems that are trying to get your code compiled. It's you who's making those decisions, not necessarily someone else on the outside. And so as difficult as it can be, especially if it's not something that other people want, I think that trying to understand it's your decision and you have to deal with whatever, both the pros and the consequences of it. And trying to make that decision for yourself is probably one of the most important things. And it's difficult, it's hard, but that is, I think, the most important thing is making a decision for yourself. And I think if you do that, it's very hard to go wrong in picking the college if you're doing it for you and what you think is going to be the best place for you to grow and develop over the next 4 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Great advice from all of you. I think something I'm gonna add, 2 things actually, is that like definitely explore your options. Like if you are trying to decide between multiple options, maybe create lists of pros and cons, as well as like if you see a red flag, like look into it. Also, if you see like a rose, like, rose thorn, like if you see a rose, like if you really just excites you, maybe it excites you for a reason that you just don't know yet, but definitely explore all your options. And maybe something that can help you make that decision is to reach out to current students, just because like maybe they can give you some insight that you can't really find online. But don't let that deter your decision or even like change it. Like people have been saying like, oh, they're going to like project the biggest thing on you to try and get you to go to that school or get you to not go to that school. But it is your decision. But if you talk to a current student, maybe something they say will excite you or just open your eyes up to something that you didn't know. So if you want to reach out to us, vstudent@gmail.com or something like that, right?
It's vstudent@usc.edu.
It's that. Cameron said it. But yeah, you can reach out to us if you want to talk to us, or we can try to connect you to someone at USC. But really, it's your job. It's no one else's to decide what college you go to. So make sure you're putting in that effort, and hopefully by May 1st, you're happy and proud of the decision that you made and looking forward to the future.
And that's a great way to end it, that on May 1st, you're going to be happy and proud of where you're going to school, and it'll be a great time. So with that, thank you guys so much for talking with each other about, your experience and whatnot. I know it can be kind of difficult to not only one, think back, but to just be vulnerable and honest about where you were deciding and what was going through your head. But I hope this really does help some folks out there kind of get a better idea of why we chose USC and maybe get some insight on how they can choose the best school for them. So with that, guys, I'll catch you guys later and fight on.
Fight on.
And we're back. That was the episode. And I think that we got a lot of good information and just, it was super insightful, even just for myself, really recalling the whole timeline of just starting from what I was like in high school and what I was looking at to now, and just how that shaped and changed and evolves, and how I really grew with USC as the decision to come here grew on me as well.
Yeah. And, I think to echo a little bit of what you said, Cameron, in the beginning, is that this is a pressure-filled situation, and it has to do with your opinion of where you think you're going to enjoy living, where you think you're going to become what I sometimes refer to as where you're going to become the best version of yourself. And no matter what I say, what Cameron says, or the decisions of our current students, hopefully it helps you gain some color into this decision process and help you understand how they made the decision. But ultimately, it's got to feel right to you, right? And I could tell you we're a great school, which we are, but the other schools that you've been admitted to are also great schools, and successful people graduate from each of those schools every single year and do amazing things. And you don't have a higher likelihood of success or a higher likelihood of happiness at any one of these schools in particular because of something else that you learn. It really is going to have to do with how you feel about it. And I'm a full believer, and I say this a lot, that your success in college is based on self-efficacy, the ability to believe that you will do well at that place, that you have agency over yourself, over your decisions, over your opportunities, and a place where you are going to not only engage and be challenged, but do well and be well and think about wellness and where you're going to thrive, and find an opportunity in a community that is going to be a space that is going to be supportive of you and your lifestyle and your personality and what you want to accomplish in college. If you hear all the things that we talk about at USC and you think, yeah, that's it, then great. We agree. That's why we admitted you. I want to be incredibly clear. We want you to come to USC. Is why we admitted you. But we also understand that a good portion of you are going to realize this is not the place for you. And that can come for a number of reasons why. Come for very specific, something as simple as we're too close or too far from home, depending on your personality and what you're looking for. It can come down to a financial consideration. And we get a lot of these emails right now. And I understand that that's an important part of your decision. And if that's something that's going to keep you from attending USC, I understand that. And it's this place is not for everyone for a number of reasons. But we have admitted you because we think you can do well here. And we would like to see you bring your skill sets, your personality, your overall kind of essence to USC to make this place what it's going to be, because we believe that adding you here is going to be a really cool combination. It's going to add to this cool combination of things that we have with our student body, where our whole is greater than the sum of our parts. And I think that's a true thing of what we do here. And ultimately, that's how teams of people are built. It's not quantitative. It's not a bunch of skill sets. It's a lot of very personal things. So with that, again, there is so much stuff on our website, viterbiadmission.usc.edu/admit. That's where all the events are. Events on campus. I neglected to mention at the forefront the events off campus, which is why I'm in a hotel right now, because we just did events up here. Had a great event with a really lively crew in Seattle on Wednesday. Had a dinner event last night in Portland. There was also events this week in Atlanta and Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Coming up, we have Denver, Santa Clara in the Bay Area, Houston, Dallas, Texas, Honolulu, Hawaii, Boston, Mass, New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia. We also have a few events this weekend in India, in Mumbai and Delhi, Pune. There's a few things that are going on. Plus, we will also have events later in the next couple of weeks for London, England, Singapore, Taipei. Yeah, so for our internationally admitted students, or admitted international students, I should say, we look forward to seeing all of you at any of these events, whatever you like. And if there's anything else you want to do or want to talk about, give us a call, 213-600-9919. If we don't pick up, it's because we're on the line with someone else likely. And make sure you leave a message so we can get back to you. Email us admit@usc.edu. Our inbox is somewhat overflowing right now, but we're doing our best to get back to you within a day or two. And there's lots of stuff that we can do. So best of luck to your decision. I really love this content. And also there's more of this type of information of stories on the Viterbi Voices website, which is viterbivoices.usc.edu, where we have a number of our current students blogging and telling their stories as to why they chose USC, in addition to a number of other things that they do on campus. So check that out. Enjoy it. Good luck with your decision. We hope to see you on campus soon. Bye now.